Blessings, beloveds. Just want to take a few minutes talking about the goddess Hygeia, and I might also talk about Venus ingressing into Pisces, her exalted position. I was looking at Hygeia today and just thinking how interesting her journey has been the last 3 years specifically. So in short, well, first of all, let's just talk a little bit about this goddess Hygeia, who is the goddess of health, healing, hygiene, which the word Hygeia literally is the Greek word for hygiene. And she corresponds to mental health as well, actually. So as a side note, you know, if you're working with people who have mental health issues, you might want to actually check out where Hygeia is, or if you're a mental health practitioner, you may find that Hygeia is prominent in your own chart. And she is for me, actually, and I was a mental health practitioner for quite a long time. So she's the daughter of Asclepios, who is the Greek god of medicine, and she has some siblings as well who are also healers. I wrote something about it today on Facebook, and I thought, well, given I've written about it, I actually feel calling to speak about it a little bit. So I'm just going to read a little bit from what I wrote, and then I'm going to bring up some charts and actually just show you guys just how significant this all is astrologically. So basically, as I said, goddess of health, healing, mental health, hygiene, etc. Her father, the medicine of God. She was also a companion to Venus as well, the goddess Venus. And it is said that her opposite, basically what their names are nosoi, which is a Greek word, and that literally translates to spirits of disease. So that's the opposite, that the spirits of disease, dis-ease, nosoi, were her opposites, right? Which is a really interesting fact, actually. Now, she became a very important goddess in the ancient civilizations because she basically dealt with the plagues that arose at the time back in the Roman and Greek cultures. And we're talking basically in Greece, it was 430 to 427 BC. And in Rome, it was 293 BC. So we're talking, you know, really ancient times here, obviously. And she became very well known as this goddess of health and healing, and dealing with the necessary requirements around plagues occurring at a time where there were obviously not the same kind of resources that we have now. And whilst some of the resources we have now are magical in terms of advancement of technology and so forth, there are also very old traditions that have been neglected in the modern world and the modern times, which derive purely from Gaia, from Earth, from Mother Earth, so earth medicine and things of that nature, right? So basically, let's just jump to some charts so I can show you just how interesting this journey has been for the last 3 years, is actually what I'm referring to. So this is a chart for today, which is the 25th of January. I'm going to come back to Venus shortly, actually, as she is going to be ingressing into Pisces, and I'd like to just make a few comments about that as well. Okay, so where are we? Where are you, Hygeia? There she is there. Okay, and interestingly enough, she's been forming a square to Chiron, who is another archetype and planetary body that corresponds purely to healing, ultimately. But obviously, what seems to be activated with Chiron, whilst we are going through this life and we are trying to heal our own traumas, whether they are traumas that have derived from this life experience, or whether it is material that is buried deep in our soul psyche that we have experienced in previous lives. Chiron can be an activator for any and all of that. And so when Chiron is transiting your chart and activating things in your chart, there can be opportunities to heal lots of old conditioned layers, if you like, of our psyche pertaining to traumas we've experienced, and also the experience of rejection and the fear of rejection, which is one of the key themes for Chiron, which very rarely gets mentioned, by the way, and I always mention it because it's a fact. Basically, when you go into the mythology of Chiron, the very first key point about his story is that he was basically rejected by his own parents, and hence when Chiron is activated in our own chart, those themes can come up very strongly in our experiences. So Chiron and Hygeia have been squaring. Hygeia has moved past Chiron now, because you can see she's at 15 degrees, but in the last week or so, and she's still within range now as well, this square from Hygeia and Chiron is quite prominent. That within itself, has quite an important story to tell, because Chiron in Aries is all about healing our own identity, right? Figuring out who we are as an individual, as an autonomous, free, independent, sovereign being, understanding our own beingness and identity in that way. And I suppose with Hygeia in Capricorn, I was thinking about, well, what would Hygeia in Capricorn sort of speak to or activate for us? And then I thought, well, squaring the Chiron and Mercury, which is approaching a conjunction with Hygeia, which will happen soon, I'll show you the chart for that, has got to be speaking to a lot of our own inner mental identities being Mercury, the thoughts that we have, the perceptions that we have, Chiron in Aries, about our own identity. And remember, I said at the beginning that Hygeia can also speak to mental health matters, which obviously includes healing mental health issues as well. So this could speak to people who have severe anxiety, depression, and on more serious scales, various other mental health conditions, right? And so outside of the mental health umbrella of the various diagnoses, if you like, around what's been labeled as this or that relative to a mental health condition, we can just look at this simply from our own mental templates that we hold, right, about our perceptions, our ideas, our thoughts about ourselves, Chiron in Aries, and breaking down perhaps some of the conditioned material, Capricorn, and Mercury approaching Hygeia in this case is also speaking to the mental constructs, Capricorn, that we perceive about this reality, Capricorn, and that we hold inside ourselves about ourselves or about this reality, right? So it is a breaking down of certain conditioned mental outlooks. And the bigger picture to this is speaking to a collective narrative, I would say, that's been playing out the last 3 years, and our understanding of it, the truth of it, and the choices we have made subsequently because of it. And I'll explain that further in a moment. So I think Mercury Hygeia, the conjunction that's approaching, let me just show you the charts for that and what's further going to be taking place. So let me see, where is it? What's that? No, that's gone too far. Okay, so there's the conjunction between Hygeia and Mercury, which happens on the 1st of February. Now that could be, on a collective level, some medical information and matters that will be addressed collectively relative to the ongoing unfoldment of what's been playing out the last 3 years. But I would like us to consider it from our own personal position and how we might actually go deeper into our own conditioned mindset. Mercury in Capricorn typically is that conditioned mindset that we hold inside ourselves about our own identity, about how we perceive ourselves, reality, life, and others, and so forth. And I think the Mercury Hygeia conjunction can also take us into a deeper and more transcendent, esoteric level of understanding of what Hygeia is really about. Even though when we talk about Hygeia, we recognize that she's a goddess of healing and health and so forth. Well, we can expand that just with our imagination and realize that when it comes to health and healing and alignment, you know, body, soul, alignment and things of that nature, we have to break through a lot of barriers of conditioned material that is there in our psyche, that is there in the unconscious, which is Pluto. So Hygeia, speaking to healing and forming this conjunction to Mercury, is an indication that we can potentially break down certain modes of operation in our thinking that is largely conditioned, right? And examine what we are actually thinking, and is there any truth in this particular perception, thought, idea, and so forth, right? As we move forward, what you'll see here is there's an exact conjunction with Pluto and Hygeia in Capricorn. This is just as Pluto is preparing to ingress into Aquarius. So I think this conjunction is going to be huge. Actually, I forgot to, where's the chart? Okay, I didn't save that chart. So I had a chart there, but it's gone. But if you can just imagine 3 years ago, when this cataclysmic explosion occurred on the earth plane with everything that's been unfolding the last 3 years, Hygeia was actually in Gemini. Okay, so that's why I said at the beginning, her journey has been extremely prominent in this narrative that's playing out on this third dimension reality. And just a very simple example is that when Hygeia was in Gemini, which was the start of this cataclysmic explosion, that the very first thing that was being exploded through media was the washing of the hands. Gemini rules the hands. Remember, these details are very, very important. They are symbolic, but they are also extremely literal, as you can see. So fast forward 3 years later, Hygeia catches up to Pluto just when he's about to finish his journey in Capricorn, although he will go back to Capricorn, but that's a subject for a later date. In any case, Pluto's right at the end of Capricorn here. Hygeia catches up. This is an important aspect, a very important aspect that is going to speak to the future, actually. And the reason I say that is because if you jump ahead to the 24th of March, which is when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, look at what is right next to Pluto. It's Hygeia again. That's not a coincidence. And that's a pretty powerful statement about the collective, Pluto, the collective in Aquarius, humanity, Hygeia in Aquarius, humanity, the health, the state of health of humanity. Now, in the third dimension reality, with everything that's been unfolding, it's pretty obvious what it's speaking to. I don't really want to articulate that because I think those of you that follow me are pretty plugged in and tuned in to what's going on, so you can understand what I'm referring to, right? So there's no point in going into specifics here. But it undoubtedly a very profound alignment that we are seeing with Hygeia, because she was there right from the beginning. And look at where she is when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius. She's right there with Pluto. What does that tell us, really? It's obviously a metamorphosis of the human collective family from the point of view of health. Now, that's going to transpire and unfold in very different ways for different people. It just depends on who we are, the position we have taken, the choices we have made, and so forth. But these symbols are undeniable. As above, so below, as within, so without, as the soul, so the universe. So I just wanted to bring that up very quickly for those that might be interested, because I know a lot of you who follow me here are really interested in the asteroid goddesses, and she's one of them. And she is a really profound goddess, especially if you are a healer of some kind. You know, just have a look to see where Hygeia is in the chart. You know, if she's on an angle or very close to a personal planet, things like that, they're the first things that you kind of go to. She's likely to be speaking very strongly in the role that you play in your life. Now, you may not be a professional working person in the field of health and healing and so forth, whether that's conventional or alternative. You may just be one of those people that really helps people in their own healing journeys because of the experiences you've had, the knowledge that you have, the understanding that you have, and you just tend to take on that role. It could also speak to fitness as well, by the way. Hygeia would speak to like a personal trainer, PT trainer, for example. So there's a broad range of areas that we can explore when it comes to health and healing, right? There's obviously the more transcendent, esoteric scope of things, which goes into much deeper layers of our soul and psyche and old traumas and so on and so forth, disassociated, fragmented aspects of ourself. And then there's the more externalized component, which, as I said, could relate to a personal trainer, for instance, or a yoga instructor or things like that, right? So we always have to use our imagination and intuition when it comes to interpreting every symbol. There's a basic fundamental description, if you like, archetypal understanding, meaning to each archetype, planets, signs, houses, etc. But then in order to get a deeper and broader understanding of the various possibilities, that's where we have to invoke our imagination and intuition. That's one of the richest components of being a really powerful reader or astrologer, if you like. So that's all I have to say about that. However, I perhaps will jump to Venus. Let's just animate this chart and get her into Pisces, which is, say, around about here, which is what, the 28th of Jan. That's just literally a few days away. This is quite an interesting journey. Venus in Pisces is her exalted position, right, relative to essential dignities and debilities, which is a system that recognizes planets in a more stronger position or a weaker position, just to put it very simply. So exaltation refers to a pretty powerful position for a planet. It's not the next level above that is rulership, as it were. When a planet rules a particular sign and it's in that sign, it's considered to be in rulership. That doesn't always follow, though, that one's life is going to be, you know, just completely fabulous, and they're not going to have any bumps or hiccups along the way just because they have planets in rulership or exaltation. But it does certainly highlight that these planets have a lot of power and a lot of pull. Venus is the principle of attraction. She attracts and pulls into her the very things that she desires and needs and appreciates and loves, right? So Venus moving into Pisces is a really important shift from the point of view of what we had really, most of 2022, because we started 2022 with the Venus star point in a Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign. Morning star is pretty feisty. we were in the year of the tiger relative to Chinese astrology. It wasn't an easy year, 2022. I don't think I've spoken to anyone who said, yeah, it was a walk in the park. You know, it was quite a challenging year. And I think a lot of that had to do with the morning star being in Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign. And so fast forward, you know, to the last sort of few weeks where we've had Venus in Capricorn and then Venus in Aquarius. Now, both those signs are Saturn ruled signs. Yes, Uranus rules Aquarius as well, and we absolutely need to integrate that component of Aquarius, of Venus in Aquarius, having that association with Uranus, absolutely. But it is still important to address and notice and recognize that Aquarius and Capricorn are Saturn signs. So in Capricorn, when Venus was in Capricorn a few weeks back, you know, that would have been an energy, a passage, a portal, speaking to a lot of what that Capricorn Venus star point triggered or activated, if you like, at the beginning of 2022. And so when she was in Capricorn a few weeks ago, it would have been revisiting, if you like, for us, the matters around Venus in Capricorn, which is about being our own authority and having a clear understanding of our own value systems, and perhaps breaking down old conditioned values and systems that we've just integrated through life, through past lives, whatever it is. And we arrive at a point where we realize, hang on a second, I've been holding these particular values in this way about relationships or about certain Venusian type of activities and so forth. And the understanding now comes in that, well, that's not really what I actually really value, you know, in my heart of hearts, relative to love and relationships. That model that I've been valuing for, let's say, for my entire life is just a conditioned model that has been shown to me through the way of life, through the family I've grown up in and so forth. And I've just, you know, just embraced it as if it's my own. So Venus in Capricorn can give us that opportunity to break down some of those barriers and get to the core of what our own values actually really are, right? It's about getting real as well, Capricorn, right? And also, you know, in Capricorn, there can be separations, blockages and challenges and things of that nature that come up too. And maybe being more on our own, spending more time on our own as well. And or feeling restricted with money or with love, the expression of our heart and love. Those are themes that can easily come up as well. But as she then moved into Aquarius and has been there the last sort of 3 weeks or so, it is a Saturn ruled sign, as I said. So some of those themes might sort of flow over into Venus being in Aquarius, but it will also have the other side to it, which is the Uranus ruled side, which says, okay, this is where I really now need to be totally and utterly authentic to what I actually fundamentally value about love in my life and about things that I love, the people that I love, the things that I wish to create from a creative perspective and so forth, the activities that I wish to participate in, the things that make me feel free within myself, Venus in Aquarius, breaking away from things that make one feel, as it were, restricted and limited. Aquarius is about freedom, right? So a lot of these themes could have been activated in one way or another through your personal circumstances and situations. Now, the ingress of Venus into Pisces is a different journey and one that I'm looking forward to. As I said, it's her exalted position. It's my Venus return. It'll be many of yours as well. Many of you would have Venus in Pisces, which is a really blissful position to have Venus in, but it also has the it has a double-edged sword. It can be agony and bliss. And I'm sure those of you who have Venus in Pisces would be able to relate to that, right? In any case, Venus in Pisces is exalted here. So she's at home, we could say. You know, she's in her element. She flows. It's a fluid journey. And also, this is where she takes us into spirit, divine territory. It's about love in a spiritual sense, you know, attracting love from that spiritual component within us, as opposed to a superficial attraction, lustful, sexual kind of level. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's just a different thing. Venus in Pisces is looking for her soulmate. That's what she's looking for. And she's looking for that deep, divine, spiritual love with the divine that she already has within her. And it is activated with her embracement and embodiment of spirit and divinity, literally just moving through her. So the journey for the next few weeks with Venus in Pisces is the yearning for a spiritual love and a spiritual connection with a particular person, let's say, or if you're in a relationship, it might be an opportunity to work on that that level of your relationship, for instance. Either way, Venus is very happy here. And yeah, that's about it, really. She's going to catch up to Neptune as well, obviously. Neptune's in Pisces. We had that conjunction when Jupiter was in Pisces as well. I think that was last year sometime. That was a really interesting triple conjunction, and it wasn't all roses and a walk in the park either, because even though Jupiter and Venus are the two benefics, and you would think when they come together, the best is going to come out of that. But when Neptune is there, Neptune is a very difficult energy. I could talk about Neptune for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't be able to cover everything that Neptune reflects, because it reflects the entirety. It reflects everything. When you think about 12th house, Pisces, Neptune, that part of the chart, the natural order of the zodiac, it is the composite of everything else. Everything is in there. So how could you explain what Neptune is from the point of view of being able to articulate every single thing that it might be? It's everything. But ultimately, it's the ultimate truth, divine source, creation to all things, spirit. However, from our human personality level, Neptune, it doesn't, and by the way, it doesn't matter how intelligent, how wise, how evolved one thinks they are, a Neptune transit can really trip you up, because it corresponds to disappointment, unfortunately. The disappointment is usually activated because when Neptune is being activated in a particular way, the way we are perceiving that experience, that person, that situation, that condition through the Neptune filter is in an extremely idealized way. It's what we dream of. It's the ideal of what we hope for, what we are longing for, right? And it trips us up because we are not seeing that thing, that person, that situation in the way that it actually is. And that's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's just how it is. So when Venus catches up to Neptune, you would want to be aware of that. If that gets projected onto a financial matter or a potential lover, mate, partner, and so forth, it's going to require you to take off those rose-colored glasses, step away from the beautiful dream and ideal and see it from the realistic position through the third dimension reality, because we are in this third dimension reality in this physical body. Trust me, I've lived it. Neptune's actually right on my natal Venus. This Neptune Venus transit here is my natal position, basically. And let me tell you, I've had some doozies happen in the last year while Neptune has been conjunct my Venus. And it hasn't been easy, and it's been massively disappointing. It's been really painful, actually. So that's why I said, you know, with Venus in Pisces, it can be agony and ecstasy. You know, both exist in the one field. I think when it comes to Neptune, the two key things really is being aware of what you are projecting and understanding that it is pure divine spirit energy. It's got nothing to do with form. It dissolves form. That's what Neptune does. When Neptune affects us, affects something in our chart, it literally dissolves that very thing that we are trying to hold on to. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. You just simply cannot do it. So just, I guess, be aware of that as Venus approaches Neptune, which I'll just show you when that is, because some of you might ask or might be wondering. So let's have a look, see. I mean, look, it's within range. You know, I basically, when it comes to conjunctions, you know, I'd go from about here. So what's that, 7th of February, starting to build up. She's approaching Neptune, right? So she's catching up. And the exact date, oops, gone too far, is basically, it's that 16th of February. Is that a couple of days after Valentine's Day? I think it is. That's funny. Okay, so there it is. And also, you know, the energy would still be there at this point, and I would go as far as even here, even though Venus is ingressed into Aries, that energy is still active. It's obviously strongest as she's approaching. As Venus starts to move away from Neptune, the energy sort of starts to dissipate as well. But things can happen anywhere in that cycle of her approaching and her departing, right? So that's all I have for today. And also, I just want to say thanks to those who joined the Pluto webinar. It was pretty intense. It was an intensive webinar, so it was about Pluto, so it had to be intense, and it was. I was so exhausted after that. I literally, it was the first night I slept for, I think, 10, 11 hours straight. Hadn't slept like that with no interruptions, I think, for a few years, to be honest with you. My sleep has just been so disrupted the last few years. It's been really difficult. But the other day I just crashed, went into full coma, full Neptune mode. It was great. Now, there are some of you that are interested in the webinar. You can email me if you're interested in accessing it, because I'm not posting it publicly. And I am planning to do another one in March, which will be Pluto affecting the cross of matter, meaning house 1, house 4, house 7, house 10. So that's going to be quite a big one, because we're looking at the angles of the chart, the cross of matter, the 4 houses, the 4 angular houses. So it's quite a big project, that one. So if you're interested in that, just let me know as well. And I'll see you guys soon with more. Much love and many star blessings. And embrace Venus in Pisces, even if it's not about love and spiritual love with a mate or with another person, because you might just be single and really content being single. Then it's really an opportunity to dive and delve deeper into the love, the spiritual love that you actually feel and have with spirit, divine source, creation to all things. So it's really powerful in any of those streams. See you guys soon. Bye for now.